ba'du. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Alhamdulillah, shukr to Allah that has given us health and life, so we can continue our program on the discussion on the essential of Islamic epistemology. And tonight we will talk about the ontological status of the objects of science. First of all, I want to talk about briefly about ontology, because we have ontological status. What is ontology? Ontology is actually a branch of philosophy that deal with the theory or philosophy of being or existence. So this is the philosophy of existence. In brief, I want to mention about the two mazahib in Islamic philosophy on the ontology. The first one is essentialism, and the second one, existentialism. You know, essentialism supported by Suhrawardi al-Maqtul, and the other one is by Mullah Sadra. But I don't want to talk about that. It takes a long time. But just to give you understanding what's ontology. So ontological status, meaning the status of the reality, of the wujud, of the objects of science. Actually, when you are talking about the science, you are talking about the possibility of knowledge from Islamic perspective. You know, but what's important in here is actually you have to believe. First, you have to believe in the existence of the objects, right? If you don't believe in the existence of any objects, then there's no reason for us to create a science of it, right? Only if we believe in the existence of the objects, then we're talking about the possibility of knowledge. Okay? So, for example, if you don't believe in God, why bother you to talk about theology, science of God, right? If you don't believe in the soul, why bother? You know, just like the Western people, you know, they don't believe in God, they don't believe in the hereafter, don't believe in the soul, and they said this is just not scientific. This is belong to maybe religions, but not science. Okay, so if the knowledge is the possibility of knowledge is denied, then how can you talk about ilm? Divine as ma'rifatu shay' ala ma huwa bihi, knowledge of something as it is. If the possibility of knowledge is denied, then the possibility of reaching status of ilm, knowing something as it is, also denied. So this is to demonstrate how important the belief in the objects. The issue here is actually because many modern scientists do not believe in the existence of non-empirical, non-physical objects. So when they are talking about science, they just talk about physical entities. They denied all non-physical entities. God, angel, you know, alam kubur, right? Even soul. They deny soul. They say that soul is actually just neurological function of the brain. So once the brain dies, then that's it, the end of human being. But there's a danger in that kind of statement, because if you don't believe in the existence of the soul, you will not believe also in the immortality of the soul. But by denying the immortality or baqa'un nafs, the survival of the soul, then you will deny the existence of the hereafter, which is one of the pillars of Iman, right? Should believe in Akhirah. So that's why it is becoming important for us when you are talking about Islamic epistemology to discuss about ontological status of objects, which are not just physical, but also non-physical. I have to make sure that the object, non-physical object, also has the same, if not the more fundamental ontological status. Okay. And once you establish the kind of objects that we believe in existence, that will influence also the classification of knowledge and also the scientific method that maybe we'll talk later, So to establish the ontological status of the objects is very important and has the long consequences, epistemological consequences. If you just believe in the physical entities, then when you talk about the scientific method, we just talk about the experimental method. Okay? But if you believe in non-existent, non-physical entities, then you have to talk about other methods that are applicable to that. Okay. Now, while many modern Western scientists deny the existence of non-physical entities, Muslim philosophers from Al-Kindi, Al-Farabi, Ibn Sina, they believe in the existence of not only physical entities, which is of course they believe, but also non-physical entities such as God, angel, human soul, and so on. So philosophers in Islam, they already created the hierarchy of wujud, the hierarchy of being, or martabat al-mawjudat, or maratib al-mawjudat. One of them is done by Al-Farabi. In his article on martabatul mawjudat, the hierarchy of beings, he listed the ontological status of all beings, including God. So he said that God is actually was put in the highest, the apex of the hierarchy of being. Okay, so God is the highest being and is considered as the cause of all beings. Okay, God is the highest being and also cause of all beings. Without him, there will be no other beings, no other existence. Okay. Then in the second row, there were angels, who was considered as the completely immaterial material things. Okay, so when you are talking about angels, you should consider them as the immaterial, completely immaterial entities. Okay, so this is not material objects, but immaterial, completely immaterial being. Okay, and then in the third row, there are celestial bodies. And then after that, we have terrestrial bodies. And that is the end of the hierarchy of wujud. Okay. Now, they also talk about God, of course, so as the apex of the hierarchy of the being. So God was considered the highest, and they have different concept of God. Okay, but all the concepts that they offered and wrote in their works will show the highest ontological status of God. Okay, for example, Al-Kindi considered God as the first cause. Okay, the first cause. Al-Anlatul Ula. And also Al-Muharrik Awal, the first mover. So by saying that God is the first cause, meaning all other than God will be the effect. Okay, God is the first cause, and the others become the effects. And of course, we know that the ontological status, the reality of the cause, will be higher than any effects. Okay, and also Al-Kindi, influenced by Aristotle, he also said that God is the first mover, the first mover. And by saying that, meaning that God is the agent, God is the fa'il. Okay, so he's active, and the universe will be infial, the passion. Okay, so from the ontological status point of view, okay, the fa'il, the agent, will be higher and more fundamental than the passion. So this is actually a philosophical term, agent and passion. Agent is active one, and passion the passive one. Okay, al-fa'il and infial. So as the fa'il, God should have more fundamental ontological status than the passion. Okay, that is Al-Kindi. And how about Ibn Sina? Ibn Sina called God as wajibul wujud, the necessary being. Okay, necessary being that cannot be understood as having, as the something that don't exist. Okay, so as necessary being, God should exist from the beginning to the end. This is the wajibul wujud. The necessary being means that we cannot conceive him as being does not exist. It should exist forever. Okay, and he conceived the makhluk, the creation, which is other than God, as the mumkinul wujud, the possible being. Okay, the possible being means they can exist potentially, but because they don't have the actuality, then the possible being, the potential being, cannot create themselves. So in order for the mumkinul wujud, for the potential being to exist, it needs the actual being, which is God. So although the universe, the nature, can exist, it's possible to exist, potential to exist, but they cannot create it himself. So they needs God to bring their potentiality into actuality, and this is what's called creation. Okay, so now, being the necessary being, of course, God has more fundamental, more essential, ontological, more higher ontological status than the possible being, because the possible being, the mumkinul wujud, can be brought into existence only by God. So God is the cause and nature or universe is the fact. And of course, the cause will have more fundamental ontological status than the possible. Okay, so if you are talking about the ontological status, the necessary being should have more fundamental status than the possible. Okay. Okay. By other. Okay. So whether you consider God as the first mover or first cause, or God as the necessary being, all will prove to us that God's ontological status, God reality, is higher than other creation, okay, than other beings. Okay, so it is clear to our philosopher that God has more fundamental, more essential, and higher ontological status. While for many Western scientists, they say God is just illusion or delusion. Okay, God does not really exist. Even Sigmund Freud say that it's not God that created us; it is we that created God. So the opposite. The Western people, Western scientists, has an opposite opinion or belief in the existence of God. For Muslim, God is the highest being. For the Western people, sometimes specifically the secular scientists, they don't believe in God. They deny the existence of God, or they have doubt on his existence. So this is the big difference between Islamic epistemologists and secular epistemologists. Okay, now we move to angel. Okay, angel occupies the second row of being, and philosopher has given us different name for the angel. Angel is a religious name of the same entities, but philosopher call them intellect, okay, or akal. So, for example, if you study the theory of emanation by Ibn Sina, he said that from the activity of God's thinking came out the first intellect. Okay, the first intellect. But first intellect means here actually angel, because we know that 10 intellect, which is al-aql fi'al, the agency intellect, was actually a Jibril. Jibril is angel, right? So the philosopher named angel with intellect. And intellect, of course, there's a first, second, and 10 intellect, according to Ibn Sina in Al-Farabi. Okay. And they say that also it is intellect, the 10 intellect is called active or agency intellect, that give that was the source of knowledge taken by philosopher and also by prophets. So the angel, especially Jibril, is actually the source of knowledge, both for Nabi, for the prophets, also for philosophers, according to Muslim philosophy. Okay, so in the religion, we said that Jibril duty is to give revelation to prophets and ilham, inspiration to wali or something like that. Okay, so in this case, almost the same, the opinions of philosopher and also the ulama. And they're talking about the possibility of having contact, ittisal with the Jibril, with the 10th intellect. So when human being reach called al-aql al-mustafad, the acquired intellect, they can have contact, ittisal, with Jibril, with the 10th intellect. So from that, the philosopher have kind of knowledge, the universal concept of knowledge. But different from the prophet, philosopher, in order to achieve that ittisal, that contact with the 10th intellect, it should have, learn philosophy, logic, and so on. But for the Nabi, for the prophet does not have to do all these things. Prophet has its own special ability to receive the revelation from the 10th intellect or Jibril. Okay, but here we understand that according to Muslim philosopher, both prophet and philosopher has the same source. That's why they believe that between philosophy and religion, there will be no real differences or opposite. Okay. That is Ibn Sina. They call the Akal, or as the angel, or angel as the intellect. But we have also Surawardi, called the angel as Nur. So he said that the first lights that come out from God is the approximate light, Nur al-Aqrab. So this is the different name for angel by Surawardi. And we also believe that God is created from lights. So that's why Surawardi called angel as lights, An-Nur. Okay. And also there are certain angels that is called Arbabul Asnam, the lords of idols. You know, because he belonged to Platonism, he believed that whatever exists in this universe, in this earth, for example, human beings, trees, and animals, they have their own prototypes, which are called the Arbab, the lords. And Asnam mean all the physical entities that we found in the earth, on earth. Okay, so Arbabun Asnam is also called the Anwar an-Naw'iyah. So the prototype of the physical entities on earth. This is called Arbab al-Asnam or Anwar al-Mudabbirah. Al-Anwar al-Naw'iyah and also Al-Anwar al-Mudabbirah. The lights, the angel that taking care of, moving the planets and also taking care of plants and so on. So this is how philosopher describe angel. So angel is also the same as intellect. And also we have the possibility of contact the angel, okay, after we reach the acquired intellect. Then also there are some lights that also become mudabbir, the manager of whatever exists in the universe. So angel has the active role. And even philosopher call Jibril, the angel or archangel of Jibril, as the Wahibuswar. Angel as the Wahibuswar, the giver of the form for the anything that exists on earth or on the universe. Okay, because they believe that everything composed of form and matter. Matter will not exist, will not come into existence without giving the form. And it was angel that give the physical entity's form. So angel is not only giving revelation, but also become the formative cause of the terrestrial bodies, or they call sublunar worlds. Okay, so without angel, these earths will not come into existence. So by position angel as the formative cause of the material or physical entities on earth, angel will have more fundamental ontological status, because they are the cause, and the physical entities on earth and other planets is just actually the effect of the angel. So here we say that angel has a more fundamental ontological status because of their being a cause. Okay, and the physical entities become less fundamental because it's being as an effect of angel. Okay. Now the third row of existence in hierarchy of being, called celestial bodies. Celestial bodies means, the bodies that exist in the heaven or sky, say like planets, stars, galaxies. So this is come into the third row of the hierarchy of being. So God, angel, and then celestial bodies. And according to Muslim philosopher, celestial bodies is actually mixture between spiritual being and physical being. So called barzah. So the area between spiritual and physical. So, for example, the sun is actually the picture between something that's spiritual, like fire. That exists in fire, and also body. For example, the sun, we call it fire, right? But actually, it's not pure fire because it has the physical element in there. But it's like when you say that light actually is not really physical or called energy. It's not purely physical, but there are also physical elements on the sun, right? So this is mixture between light and physical things. So that makes they believe that actually celestial body is higher in ontological status than the physical one. The physical one is considered as the lowest being in the hierarchy. Okay, why celestial bodies was considered of having higher status? Because they said that actually, according to their study, the celestial body has the great influence on the so-called sublunar world. So sublunar world is the Earth, actually, the world. Okay, and celestial beings, celestial entities, have a great influence on physical entities on Earth. For example, they even can manage the interaction and relation between physical and chemical elements. So for example, the interaction, the separation of the atoms cannot be done without without the influence of celestial body. Say it, for example, the sun, and we can say that without sun, there's no life in this earth, right? So this is how great the influence of celestial bodies into the physical world. If you say that without sun, there will be no trees, and without trees, there is no animal, and so on. So actually, the sun gives life to the earth. Okay. So this is how they conceptualize the greatness of celestial bodies and their influence on the physical entities. And also, if you read the Rasail Ikhwan and so forth, it's very interesting actually. They said that the color of gold, which is yellow, is actually the influence of the sun, while the color of what's called the and the other one, like Perak, forget. This is the influence of the moon, and also the other like the Jamrud. Okay, this is also influence of the certain kind of planets. So the celestial bodies influence not only human beings, right? And we know that for example, in astrology, right? The influence of stars on someone who's born on June or something like that. Okay, but also influence the mineral and influence also the vegetable and animals, something like that. So they said that actually celestial body has upper hand. I mean, it's influence the existence of the physical entities on Earth. Okay, so it also the celestial bodies managing about the dynamics and the movement and even the evolution of the sublunar entities. Okay, so because they have accepted the influence on the physical entities on Earth, so their ontological status will be higher than the one that influence. So like fa'il, the fa'il and infial is also apply here. The agent and patient also. The agent will be higher than the patient. Okay, so because the celestial body has exerted great influence on the physical entities on Earth, so they are higher in ontological status than the physical one. Now, the last row of being, the hierarchy of being, of existence, is called terrestrial bodies. Okay, terrestrial means the earthly. Right? So the philosopher divided into 4 categories. The first one is because they call 4 basic elements, or arkan al-arba'ah. You're talking about fire, earth, water, and air. Okay. The ontological status of these elements, of course, is the lowest one. Right? And from the element, then the creation will go up again. Okay. First, they go down to the 4 element, and from element, then come up a little bit, because, for example, mineral is the combination, a certain combination of 4 elements. And it has more activities. For example, although we said that stone is actually inorganics, meaning dead, but it's actually not dead. They have, they can transform itself into the higher and noble. For example, stone, from the coral, they can transform into like gem, right? Or metal also like that, from like iron into gold, right? So they believe that even mineral substance has soul, actually, in which there's a active one and a passive one, the agent and passive. So, for example, if you see the movement, for example, in the atom, you know that atom is already, it's not stay still, but there is a electron that go around the necklace. So there is a movement there. And every movement, they said that there should be mover and also being moved. So the mover is the higher one. And this is the soul of mineral. And then from here, when mineral develops into more the higher and the highest one, from that the vegetable come out. Okay. But when they are talking about plant, this is very important. In the, of course, botany, they have the botany, and they talk about the what's called morphology, the origin, and also the parts of plant. But in addition to that, they also talk about soul, okay, of vegetable soul, called an-nafs an-nabatiyya. And why they say that? Of course, the soul cannot be seen. But according to them, the vegetable soul has the called faculties. Okay, first they call nutritive faculty, the ability of the plant to observe the food from the ground, right? And because of that, plant has another faculty. There's a faculty of growth, right? From the small seed to the very high, even 100 meters of a tree, right? And also, there's a faculty that is not had by mineral, for example, the reproductive faculty, the ability to multiply itself from the parts of the plant. So because of that, a Muslim philosopher, Muslim scientists believe that actually the tree has a soul because of these faculties. Okay, and then the third terrestrial bodies is called animals. Okay, and animals are divided into two kinds. The first one is a common animal, and this animals has two additional faculties to the vegetable faculties. Okay, so all animal has all the faculties that belongs to plant. For example, animal can eat, right? This is nutritive faculty. Animal also can grow from semen to, and animal also has a reproductive faculty. Then can bear children, right? Okay. But to animal, God created two other faculties. The first one is sensation, okay, and the other one movement. So if you want to define animal and it's different from the tree, just look at the things. If it can make a sense perception, that means it's animal. And if it can move, it's also animal. Because vegetable doesn't have that two faculties that belong to animal only. Okay, so by movement, haraka means it can leave a certain point and go to other points. This is what's called the haraka, the movement, locomotion. Okay, so if you see the tree, was moved by wind, that does not consider as movement because the tree cannot leave position. Okay. And another one, two faculties that belong to animals. Okay. But there's another animals called rational animals, or called human beings. Okay. All that the animal and plant has all belong to also up to have had also by human being. So human being has the faculty, nutritive faculty, the faculty of growth, the reproductive faculty, and also he has the sensation and also movement. Okay, but to human being, God give us another special element called intellect, and intellect actually belong to angelic world. So, in other words, human being actually has also angelic elements in himself. So that's why by looking at this, human being actually has all the cosmic elements. Because of that, human being called the microcosm. Okay, so these are the range of objects that was considered by Muslim philosophers as legitimate objects. So when you are talking about the Muslim scientists, they believe not only in the physical entities, but also non-physical entities. Okay? And because of that, they create science that's suitable to the hierarchy of being. So if there is hierarchy of being, there's also should have the hierarchy of knowledge. So when you put God in the highest level, in the metaphysical world, there should be metaphysical science. Okay? And metaphysical science are divided at least 5 branches. First, ontology, the philosophy of being, and the second one, God, that create theology, and cosmos, that created the cosmology, and human being, anthropology, and the last one is the eschatology, talking about the hereafter. Okay, and then when we are talking about barzakh, the world between spiritual and material world, we have actually the suitable sciences to that, which is called mathematics. So mathematics was situated between the physical and metaphysical sciences. Okay, why? Because according to Ibn Sina, mathematics actually the mathematical objects in themselves is not physical, but the non-physical object of mathematics still have the relation with the physical objects. For example, 2 is not physical, right? But the 2 can be related to chairs. So you can say 2 chairs, right? While if you are talking about metaphysical entities, there is no direct link to the physical entities. So Ibn Sina and other philosophers situated mathematics in between metaphysical and physical. And usually, most commonly, mathematics was divided into 4. Ilmul Hisab, arithmetics, and then Handasa, geometry, and then musics, and astronomy. And astronomy divided into 3. Ilmul Hay'a, astronomy, and Ahkamun Nujum is the astrology, and called Jiz, Ilmul Jiz, which is the astronomical table. Okay, that is for mathematics. But Ikhwan Usopa added to that geography. Okay, so 5 branches of mathematics. Now, when from God to Barza, and then we are going back to the Earth. So Earth actually occupy the lowest status of ontology, and when we're talking about Earth, then we are talking about first the physical entities, okay, that belong, and from that, Muslim philosopher created the physics, and it's talking about form, matter, movement, time, and space. That is what they're talking about in physics. Okay, and also added to that, they are talking about the generation and corruption. Okay, al-kawn wal-fasad. That's belong to physics. Then after that, they are talking about the al-arkan al-arba'ah, the main elements, that is water, and air and earth and fire. And for them, this is like mother that give birth to other physical entities, such as mineral, vegetable, and animal kingdoms, including human being. Okay, so after that, they are talking about mineral substance, and they created a science suitable to that called mineralogy. Okay, and they are talking also about the vegetable, and they created a science called botany. And also they'll deal with the animals, then they call it zoology. And when they are talking about human being, they divided three sciences on human being. First, human being as a physical being called anatomy. And the second one talk about human being as mental being. They call it psychology. And the third one is talking about human being in perspective of health and sickness. They created for that medicine. So this is what I can present to you about the ontological status of the objects and the what's called the suitable science for all of them. Okay, I hope that it will give you something. Maybe there are many new things, but I hope that you can understand. If you don't understand, then you can give us, questions. Okay, Brother Saran.
Thank you so much, Prof. It's a real philosophy tonight.
Yeah, sorry for using, many philosophical terms.
I have listened to many lectures, but this tonight is heavy. Prof, they talk about God, about angel, about celestial bodies, about terrestrial bodies, and then Prof talk about metaphysical and the role of mathematics, how mathematics is in between, and then we understand now mathematics is between both worlds, physical and metaphysical, alhamdulillah, and about earth, alhamdulillah, and then lastly Prof about mineralogy, botany, theology, and human, divided into three: anatomy, psychology, and medicine. So we can clearly see that all these systematic ways of our philosophers looking at things, alhamdulillah. So we have a few questions. Bro, you talk about this celestial. This is out of the topic. What do you think about this black hole, Big Bang theory? What's your brief comment on it? It's from me. That's my question. Yeah.
No, that is real. I mean, this is how astrophysics develops in the West, and we take advantage of that. Of course, there are philosophical bases of that actually, and what we call nebula and black hole and everything. This has actually happened many billion years, light years ago. It doesn't happen now. True. It just come to us through light, travel. And just reach the actually not us, actually the telescope, Hubble telescope, just today, but actually happened, maybe when the universe just few billion years. So what we witness from the telescope is not happened today.
Yeah.
So it's like travel back to the origin. I hope one day they can, like capture the beginning. When singularity, explode in a Big Bang, right?
That's true.
But all of this true. I mean, it doesn't contradict any religion. If our philosopher didn't talk about that, of course, because the limits of the instrument or something like that. But the possibility of that, yes, they have talked about firmament. This is falak muhit, This is and also they are talking about seven layer of heaven and something like that, and there's no contradiction of that. I mean, of course, you can take advantage of this astrophysical development, the theory of Big Bang, and the expanding universe. It's very useful for us, and for us, it's just so how great is God,
That's true.
But the question, why God created the universe so vast? Why? But according to Sufi, this is because the universe is the reflection of God. And this is reflection of the greatness of God, If God just created the earth, what kind of God is that? And if the universe is so vast, how about the creator? Of course, the bigger than the creation, right? And if you see your heaven is so high, this is also reflections of the highness of God, right? If you see the beauty in the universe, this is reflections of God's beauty. Inna Allah jamil yuhibbul jamal. So for us, this is very useful to study this astrophysics and biology and so on. Okay.
Thank you, Prof. Okay. From Prof. Fatah, can you explain once again the faculty of mineral? You mentioned about the mineral that affected by the celestial, that the gold and the silver. Can you explain again what does it mean? Yeah.
No, if you read Rosail Ikhwanusova, which we translated and I edited the whole thing, everything is there. For example, we are talking about the Kawakib, about stars. They criticize people who say that there's nothing to do with us. Many ulama say that this creation is nothing to do with us. They don't have the idea about the influence of this celestial body to Earth, but actually they. For example, the sun. Without sun, there is no life.
True.
This is why you don't see that. But we don't understand what the influence of the moon, the influence of the like Mercury. They talk about that. So even to the mineral, the color of mineral it also has its sources, its influence. So silver, for example, this is influence of the moon, not physical. It is the spiritual influence. Okay, and also Mars, of course, this is for like bronze or maybe like what's the certain kind of stone, which is had red or okay, but also the influence on vegetable, right? Without the sun, how can vegetable leaves, create this like the glucose and the food? And this is actually like the factory, making food, by using the solar energy, and they make food out of that. But what's interesting is how can you give evidence of the existence of the soul? I mean, the soul of the vegetable. And I maybe I already talked about how coconut tree, for example, can transform the dirty water into pure. Yeah, if only with a capillary power, it cannot be. I mean, if you suck the mud, it will come out also mud. But no, right? And God said that with some water, the same water, they create, like rambutan, durian, something like that. Okay. And just for you to know that Ikhwan Usopa already talked about 12 aspects of stone, in terms of form, matter, the roughness, smoothness, the hardness, and also the influence of the stone into human soul, and also the characteristic of the certain mineral substance. For example, there are some mineral substances that like love each other, For example, when there's a magnet and a pin, this is like lover, They want to come together and hug very tightly. But there's some that maybe just friend, just holding hand like that. For example, they said if there is a good gem, but you put on the gold, they will interact. There is a chemistry on that. So the relation will be very, very strong. But they're also the opposite, They want to to destroy. For example, certain stone, certain mineral can sharpen the knife, for example, right? Human being just use that. Okay, so.
Okay, Prof. There's a good question here by Brother Ramadan, by Cahyana Ramadhani and Brother Ahmad. Maybe next lecture you can take it. What kind of come from intellect? Is there a relationship between ontology and anthropology and sociology? I think next time to explain all of this connection cannot be 1 or 2 minutes. Okay. Prof. How about the summary for tonight, Prof?
Yeah.
We can take this question later on. This is.
Okay. Just send to
I'll forward to you.
We can talk about that.
So can you put it in 2 minutes of tonight lecture, Prof? Can you summarize or?
Yeah. Okay. Jadi, so I can say this. This lecture tonight is just to make more firm our belief in the existence of a ghaib, alam al-ghaib or shahada. So we believe not only in the physical things, but also non-physical things. And tonight, we'll give actually the rational argument why certain non-physical entities not only exist, but also they have the rank of the ontological status. Why God is higher than others? Why angel higher than others? And why celestial? Something like that. Okay, so just to make our belief firmer. Okay, because the denial of the Western, influence by positivism, they deny anything but the observable things, and it cannot be our belief, right? So belief in alamul ghaibi was shahada. I think that is the essence of our lecture tonight.
Thank you.
I apologize for maybe the mistake or something.
Well, this is 12,000 pages work of Ikhwanul Safa. It's not easy to summarize.
Not easy. That's right. Okay.
Thank you so much, Prof. We'll look forward for next week's lecture, inshallah.
Inshallah. Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.